and this is my September reading wrap-up. I read 19 books in September. I read 3 middle grade, 6 children's books, 5 nonfiction, and 5 picture books. So it was all about the children's and the middle grade in September. I did read part of one classic, but I did not finish it yet. I'm still in the middle of reading Elizabeth Gaskell's The Life of Charlotte Bronte, and I'm expecting to finish that in October as part of Victober. So you'll be hearing more about this one and my other Bronte reading throughout the rest of Victober. I read Ogre Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. This is a prequel to Aloe Enchanted. Evie is a teenage healer, always concocting potions for her best friend, Wormy. When he proposes, she says no, and the fairy Lucinda curses her to be an ogre until she accepts a marriage proposal. She searches for someone to awaken her ability to love, but she just isn't sure what love is supposed to look like. And of course, she's an ogre, so that complicates things. I was really disappointed in this book. I only gave it 3 stars. The story was just kind of oddly disjointed. There were several things in the plot that seemed way too convenient or just really far-fetched, even for a fairy tale world with magic. The ending was rushed. The relationships felt forced. The characters are okay, but there was just sort of bland character development. The thing is, usually I love this author's books. I loved Aloe Enchanted. I love a ton of other books from this author, and so I came into it with certain expectations of what the writing was going to be like and what the story was going to be like, and it just didn't deliver. I read all 6 books in the Molly American Girl series. It was just so fun to reread these favorite books from my childhood. I love to read about Molly and her friends and her sweet family. Molly is growing up in the middle of World War II and her father is overseas in Europe, but she and her family find ways to support the war effort from home. The writing is really excellent for this age range. The stories are simple, but they have good character development and a really interesting narrative arc. And of course, I love all the little bits of history that are intertwined with each story. I have always loved that Molly is a problem solver. Her personality is so strong and smart. And the writing is so good that we can really follow Molly's journey as she begins to grow up, and we feel every scene with her. And I love that each book has historical information at the back that talks about that time period in history, and it's wonderful to see such a vivid glimpse of how people lived back then. All of the following books are books that I received for free from a publisher in exchange for a free and honest review. I was so excited when How to Get Away with Myrtle came in the mail because I read the first book and I fell in love with it, and I was so excited that Myrtle is back in my life again that I started jumping around the house, clutching the book and squealing and screaming that I'm so happy, and my roommate thought I was insane. And as much as I came into it with high expectations, this book did not disappoint. I ended up giving it 5 stars. Myrtle is traveling by train for a holiday at the seaside when a priceless tiara is stolen and one of the passengers is murdered. The local police are completely incompetent, and it is up to Myrtle and her irrepressible governess, Miss Judson, to solve the case. But it's very difficult for Myrtle to adhere to the rules of proper etiquette for a young lady and still be able to run around solving murder mysteries. I just cannot describe how much I loved the first book and this second book in this Myrtle murder mystery series. One of the things that made me fall in love with this book is the incredible character development for various characters, but especially for Myrtle. I was fully invested in the character growth and the story and the mystery from the very first page. The writing really draws you in and just emotionally hooks you into the lives of the characters. And I was massively curious about every clue. I just couldn't wait to read the next chapter and the next. And I wanted to see how all these different clues would finally come together and give us a full picture of the mystery. I was so pleased with the complexity of this mystery. At one point I thought I had it figured out, and it's like I was partially right, but it was actually something else that completely surprised me, and I loved it. The secondary characters are all really memorable and wonderful too. The setting with the train and then the beach and the pier, it all gives this really great atmosphere to the story. The writing is funny and serious, and there's a lot of witty dialogue and funny little aside comments to the reader. It's just so clever. I wish I could give this book 10 stars. I cannot wait to see more from this author. I cannot wait to read more about Myrtle. I also read the first book in the Skunk and Badger series by Amy Timberlake. Badger has a simple, quiet life, studying rocks and doing important rock work. But one day, Skunk shows up on his doorstep as his new roommate, and Badger's quiet life is thrown into chaos. I loved this book so much. It reminds me really strongly of like a Wind in the Willows kind of setting, because there is a quiet character and there's an adventurous character, and they have to learn to be friends. The character development is so fantastic. Badger goes through this whole internal journey as his world begins to open up and he realizes just how isolated he had become. He is initially dismayed by Skunk's antics and all the messes that he makes, but eventually he begins to loosen up and have some fun and appreciate the friendship and companionship that has come into his life. I really love just the warmth of their friendship and how they laugh together. Skunk is just adorable. He's the underdog of the animal world because, you know, he's a skunk, he's smelly. He's a little bit of an outcast, and it's just so endearing. He's energetic and kind. He's charming and really quirky, and I just was so interested in like, what crazy thing is he gonna do next? I love that the story is simple enough for a children's chapter book, but it's also very meaningful and very enjoyable to read as an adult as well. And I have to talk about the beautiful artwork. Some of the illustrations are in color and others of them are in black and white, but they are all incredible. The lines are so expressive and the whole mood is so quaint and charming. And there are all these little lovely details that bring the story to life. I can't wait to read more from Skunk and Badger. I gave this one 5 stars, and it just made me smile, like really deep down, joyful smile. And now we'll get into the nonfiction that I read. I read 101 Amazing Uses for Aloe Vera. This has health remedies and mental wellness remedies, beauty products, acne cream, cleaning products, even bug spray, all kinds of stuff that you can make at home using aloe vera gel or aloe water or the latex in aloe plants. I was just very impressed with all the different things that aloe can do. I had no idea that aloe vera was so versatile and you could use it for so many things. I gave this 4 stars. I read Called to be Creative, a guide to reigniting your creativity. This book explores what it means to be creative and how to unleash your own creative energies. There are tips for exploring different hobbies or crafts or art, and advice on gaining confidence in your own abilities and taking risks. I like how this book encourages the reader to try new things and learn from failure. The author spends a lot of time talking about her mother and how creative her mother was, including excerpts from her mother's journal and photos of her mother's artwork. However, I was not expecting this book to be quite so autobiographical, and I got bored with the long stories about the author's family. Some of the stories were things about grandma's old furniture or taking the grandkids camping or something. So I just felt like maybe the age range that this is geared towards is just not my age range. I gave it 3 stars, and I think if I were about 40 years older, I would have enjoyed it more. I also read 3 books from National Geographic Kids. I read the 2021 Almanac. This book is full of weird facts and information about history and exploring and biology, space and science and animals, ecosystems and geography and nature. Of course, I devoured this book and enjoyed every single colorful page. It's full of interesting science information and it's just beautifully designed. I gave it 5 stars. And I also took a look at the Beginner's US Atlas and the Student US Atlas. I love maps, and both of these atlases are full of incredible maps. It's got photos and facts and culture and history. And it has colorful designs and interesting little details about every state in the United States. Of course, the first thing I did was turn to the page for my state, Georgia, and I pored over the pages, finding my town, and looking for nearby parks and national monuments. I really love both of these. They're just beautifully, beautifully designed. And of course, I gave them both 5 stars. And next I have some picture books that I read in September. I read 2 books from the Clarisse, the Chicest Mouse in Paris series. I read the Bonjour Riviera and Holiday Heist. Both of these were just adorable and sweet, and I gave them both 4 stars. I also read How to Spot an Artist, which is a little book that tells you that artists come in all shapes and colors and sizes, and art can look different for a lot of different people. I thought this was really clever, and I gave it 4 stars. And I read The Little Dancer, which is a children's book that's inspired by Degas. I really love the artwork in this one, and I felt like it was a very sweet story. I gave it 4 stars. But then I read The House of Happy Spirits, which is a children's book inspired by this architect who does these weird, colorful buildings. And I did not like the story. It was very strange. It just seemed like it was this weird and wacky, like, dream sequence. Nothing really made sense in the story. If you like weird, wacky dream sequence type books, you might enjoy it, but I only gave it 2 stars. And those are the books that I read in September. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know what was your favorite book that you read this past month. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.